to another episode of Jim's Lama Garden. Okay, so now we've got the base down. What it's time to do is basically put in, basically start the frame off. Now, what I'm going to do is put in this side piece here, so effectively like this wall, if you like, in here, and the one that's going to go along there. Then I'll put the two gable ends in afterwards. But if I can just sort of explain, these are the corner pieces, and basically that will sit in the framework. I don't know if you can see, but that will sit in the framework like that. And then these two holes here is what holds the bracket to take the piece going up like that there. I don't know if you can see the two holes in there. So that bracket is going to fit onto there, so that's basically needs to bolt in there. So the easiest way of putting up the sidewalls is, the easiest way to put up a greenhouse is to put up the small sidewalls first. As soon as you've got those two up, then you can fit in the gable end, which is this piece here with the door on, and obviously the other end as well. So what I'm going to do is start off by putting these side bits in. Now, the way that you hold it up is, you can see this angle piece here. So that angle piece there is these pieces here. So this piece here will be fitted between the top of this piece and that hole that sits in there. So that's basically going to sit like that up against the pole here. So what I'll do is first bolt that into the bottom here, and then put in this cross member here into the hole, which you can see just there, that hole there. So those two get bolted together, and then there's going to be a similar piece which will fit in that bolt hole at the bottom there, which will go up into the other side, which you can't see. I'll just quickly show you now, which will fit onto this piece here. There'll be a bolt in there, and it'll bolt into there. So that'll basically hold it upright, both this way and that way, and then you can start to build in the back corner, the two back corners, then this corner here, and then you can start to put in the middle pieces, which are these here. So these are the other bars, effectively the same as this one here. So that'll fit in there like that, and then there'll be another one in there, obviously to match this one like that, and then obviously this will be the corner piece at the back. So I'll just put those pieces in, and I'll show you step by step me doing that. Okay, so to put this corner in now with the bolts, if any of the bolts, because obviously these bolts are made out of aluminium, these are the ones that came out of the greenhouse when I took it apart, but I have got some spare new ones. Now, anything structural like a corner piece like this, I would advise, if you have got new bolts, I would advise that you put them in, because that's most certainly going to, because it's aluminium, the bolts could have been stretched in the past, so it is advisable that you do that. So what you need to do is put the bolt actually up inside the framework like that, and then that slides over that groove like that. So that's basically going to bolt that into that position there. And then what I also need is a new bolt, and the bolts always go from the outside in. This flat bit here always goes on the outside. If you put it the other way, then it's going to interfere with where the glass goes. So I'm just going to wiggle that a little bit like that to get it in. Now all I need to do now is put on the nuts. So I'm just going to put one nut on there like that. Now I'm not going to put these up really tight yet. What you want to do is put the nuts on. Now you'll notice that I'm using two different types of nuts here. That's a hexagonal nut, because that's going into a full hole. In fact, what I will do is I'll use a hexagonal nut on this one. There's no reason why I can't. Just run the nut on. Oh, just run the nut on there. Now, this is this pole now is only supported at the bottom. So what I need to do now is just keep my hand on it for now until the this nut doesn't want to go on there. I need to hold this upright until I've got the side supports on. Otherwise, this could strain the frame at the bottom here. So for some reason, the nut doesn't want to go on this bolt. There might be something wrong with the bolt. I think the thread's something wrong with it. So I'll just take this off and try it again with a different bolt. Okay, so that's it with the two bolts in there. Now all you need to do, and I advise that you do this with a spanner. Don't do it with a ratchet, a socket and ratchet, because 9 times out of 10, this is a good example here, you can't get the ratchet in anyway. So really you need a spanner to do this, and just by tying it up like that, you're not likely to over tighten the bolt. Now you don't need to put these too tight. If you tighten them up too much, you will most certainly, you know, break the bolt. So that's the upright in at the bottom, and that's holding it reasonably firm, but that won't stand any wind. So what I need to do now is get the cross section piece in. Okay, so the cross section piece basically goes from the bottom frame here, that first hole there. So all I need to do, again, with a new bolt, you go in from the outside, and then the frame is always on the inside like that. You just want to put a quick nut on that. You don't want to tighten this up yet, but just put a quick nut in on there. If I can find it. Right, and then basically what I want to do now is bolt this onto the top of here. Now what this will do is, when I bolt this in here, that's going to hold this upright, so this isn't going to be able to move. So now I'm only going to bolt this in lightly. The reason being is there's going to be a bracket that fits in here. I don't know if you can see this on the camera. There's going to be a bracket here to hold the roof, the piece that goes up from that basically part of the door frame. So I'm just going to put this in loosely for now, because this will have to come off again anyway. But what this will do is it'll actually hold up the corner piece where it should be in the right place like that. So I'm just going to, with a 10mm spanner again, just quickly nick that nut up. Now this bottom bolt here, this will stay here. So what I can do with this is I can put in a bolt at the bottom here, which will effectively be staying here. So this won't need to come out again. So I can put this in nice and tight, and then when I release the bolt at the top, this piece will stay, hopefully, in place. So I'll just tighten that up. Just my finger by now. Right, so also in here there'll be, not this actual piece, but there'll be a glazing bar going in there, which will bolt in the middle as well, and at the bottom. So the next time I take that nut out of the top here, this will be bolted in, and also there'll be another one bolted in over here as well. So that will hold all of this in place when I take that nut out of there to put the brackets in anyway. So that's the corner piece in, nice and firm that way. Now going the other way, there's another strengthening bar which goes down from here like that down to that corner there. So on this side here, it's just a bolt that goes into the groove, and then at the bottom there it actually goes into a hole in exactly the same way as that. So I'll just put that in, then I'll show you on the camera what it looks like. Okay, so that's the far two corners in. Now what I've done is just temporarily bolted these in here, because that basically goes onto the bracket. If I can just show you this one here. Now this corner, this is effectively the bracket that the roof will kind of go up from. If I can just show you in this greenhouse here, you'll see that it's basically that part in there. So basically the piece that goes up the roof will bolt onto there. So this piece here actually bolts into that there, look. So I've just bolted it there for now just to keep it upright so it's nice and sturdy. Now as soon as you've got the two corners in from the side, what you need to do is put the top piece in across the top. Now I've not bolted these ones in yet because these also bolt to the piece that goes across. Now this is like the gutter part, if you like. So this basically fits. So it slots in to kind of there like that, bolts into that bit there. So I need to put a bolt in there and bolt that on, and it's also bolted at the side like that. So it's difficult to do with one hand on the camera, but that basically bolts in like that. And then this piece here will bolt into that hole there, and then obviously this one will bolt into that hole there. So I'll just bolt those in now, and then I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so now we've got the gutter piece on, as you can see. That's now hard bolted down onto the corner piece. That's the strength of the piece in there. Now as you can see, we've got a pretty sturdy structure already, just by what we've put up already. Now all you need to do, quite easily, is just drop in the glazing bars. Now to do that, all you need to do, just as I'll take a nut off, is these are the glazing bars here. Now these are the straight pieces that the glass fits into, so it's that kind of section. Now all you need to do is the bolts, the exact same bolts that the cross member's going to down there. This will, all you need to do is push that in, and then that will just slot straight over that bolt like that. And then all you need to do then is drop a bolt in at the top there and bolt it in at the top. So I'll just do that, and all you need to do is basically put a bolt in at the top, sort of slide it in from there, and then push it into the hole, put your nut on the side there, bolt that up, and all you need to do then is just tighten the nut up at the bottom here, and that's your first glazing bar in, and then do exactly the same thing there, and that's basically the side in the greenhouse. Okay, so that's the first glazing bar in, so I'll just show you because I've got the bits in my hand. So all you need to do again is just push it over the bolt at the bottom, if you can see that, just slide it in over there. Now that lines up with this top hole here, so all you need to do is with your bolt, obviously doing this with two hands it's a lot easier, you slide the bolt into that groove like that, okay, and then by pushing it in to your hole there, so that's the glazing bar in place. All you need to do then is just run your nut on the inside like that. So that's the glazing bar basically in place. Then all you need to do with your spanner, obviously not too tight, you want to make it tight but not overly tight, you don't want to damage the bolt. You want it sort of kind of that tight. I know you can't see what I'm doing really. And then all you need to do then is just tighten up this bottom one, which will kind of nick in the bottom bolt as well. Just going to do that with my fingers a bit first. That's it. And then just nick up the bottom. That's it. And that's basically that is the sidewall now in. So we've got the cross members in like that, which is going to stop it from scissoring backwards and forwards, so that's nice and sturdy, as you can see. I'm pushing that backwards and forwards and it's not moving anywhere. So we've got the cross members in there, we've got the two glazing bars in, so basically 2 foot panes of glass will go in there, and exactly the same as this greenhouse here. And then onto here we'll have the struts that will go up for the roof, which will be the other glazing bars for the roof. Then obviously the roof will go up from here. So all I need to do now is do exactly the same thing as I've done here on this side, and then I've got 2 strong side walls that I can build the roof structure onto. Obviously what I have done at the moment, just for now, is I've bolted these pieces in to that hole there, but what they're going to end up being is in this bracket here so that'll be bolted in there. So that's obviously just loose at the moment, but what I will do is I'll bolt that in. When I want to bolt that bracket into there in a moment, then basically the roof section will then, this strengthening strut here will bolt in kind of here on this bracket, and then that'll be the side plate completely finished. So that's what the side looks like. Okay, so we're starting the gable end sections now. Now all I've done since the last little clip is I've put these corner brackets in at each of the corners. There, that was already in, and this one here, and of course I've built this wall here. Now this is in exactly the same way. So the two side walls are identical to each other. So all I've done is just repeated what I explained for that one here. So I've now got the two sides in. And as I say, I've put these corner pieces in. Now I've bolted these pieces in here temporarily, because there'll be the roof section coming down onto here. So that bolt there will have to come out again to put the roof section in, but I'll show you that in a few moments. So the next step is to build the far gable end. Now this is the simpler of the two. Obviously this side here will have the door on it. So this is the side you'll have this track on here for the bottom of the door to hold the bottom of the door in. But the back section, basically what we have are some uprights going up, which we'll put the two end ones in, I'll show you in a moment, and then we can start to put in the roof sections. Now at this point in the construction it is much easier if you've got two people, so one person can hold it whilst the other person bolts it in, but there's no reason why you can't do it on your own like I'm going to do now. So the next pieces to go in are these two sections, which are slightly longer than the wall that you've already put up, and these are basically going to sit at the back, but they're going to sit in this kind of location like that. So just show you over here. If I get this side, which is this one, so that's going to lock in. I've already put a bolt in at the bottom in exactly the same way. That's going to lock in there, and it's also going to bolt into this this hole here. You can see there's going to be a bolt through there, and then it's going to lock in at the bottom there. So I'll just put this, get the bolts ready, and I'll show you that being bolted in. Okay, so all I've done now is just loosen that bolt off there, and got the right piece. Now obviously what you're going to have, if you look at the top, that's sloping that way, so obviously that needs to go this side. Obviously that's the direction in which the roof's going to slope. So there's obviously a left and right one. So basically what you need to do is make sure you've got the other one for this side. Now what you need to do is get your bolt before you put it on, and then just run that down the groove in the strip like that. Now what you need to do is at the bottom there, just push the bolt through, and then line it up with your strip like that. So that's now locked in. I can tighten that up in a moment. Then all you need to do is just run the bolt down like that, and then line it up with the hole in this piece. This is easier said than done when you've got a camera like that. Okay. Then all you need to do then is just run your nut on there, and then that will hold this piece in two places. So it's anchored there and at the bottom. So now what I can do is I can support the roof strut onto this without any problem. Okay, so when you've got the two sides in, as you can see, that's now bolted at the bottom and then halfway up. Now if you look at the line here, you'll see that it kind of cuts through there, and you start to question yourself, is this right? Don't worry, these will look slightly too long compared to that. So if you take that line up, you know, it doesn't quite match with that, but don't worry, they are right. It's because this piece basically goes up inside the piece that's going to go up to make the apex of the roof. So that side's in now, as you can see, bolted at the bottom there, halfway at the top. Now what I have done is I've not tightened these too much, so they're still reasonably loose. The reason for putting these in now is when you put the roof pieces on, if you're on your own, what you need is some support in two places. So one here, and obviously one here whilst you're bolting it in, so you can actually put the roof pieces in without having to worry about sort of holding it. So that's that in. There are obviously two other pieces, these pieces here, and these pieces are going to fit in kind of along here. So that's going to go in at the bottom there, which will make up the piece to go here, and then there'll obviously be another one around there to make up that last piece of the roof there. But you can't put these in because basically these aren't supported anywhere apart from the bottom and at the top, so you need to get the top piece in to hold these in place. So you can't put those in yet, but what you can do, because of these strengthening struts, you can put these two side ones in, and then you can use them to support the roof bit, which is the next part to put in, without having to sort of have two people to hold it. So what I'll show you now is how to put the starting of the roof in to finish off this gable end. Okay, so these are the two roof sections. Now if you look at it like that, the section itself is exactly the same as the corners of the greenhouse, except you'll have this angle cut off the top, and that's basically the top of the apex of the roof. So this one is the this one is that side that goes up there. So if you can imagine, that'll basically fit in to there like that. Yeah. So this piece here will bolt in there, and then obviously those two holes on the end there will align with the two holes on that place. Now before you put them in, two things that are important to do. One, these two pieces, obviously that's the left side, that's the right side, will bolt onto the strip that goes up the apex of the roof. So what you need to do is to just run a nut and bolt down on there and tighten it up there, and another one on this one. Now you'll need those later on. If you put these up and then try to put the top bar in, which is the piece that goes along the top of the roof there, you won't have any bolts in the ends to basically bolt them on. So you need to put them in now before you put them onto the greenhouse. And then the holes that correspond to these pieces, what you need to do is put a bolt facing inwards. So this is the outside of that'll be the outside of the greenhouse, this will be the inside of the greenhouse. You need a bolt facing in so that the top of the nut is there, which will slot onto this piece here, and then all you need then is another nut and bolt to bolt it onto the side here. So the first thing to do is just to loosen this off again, because that's obviously going to bolt into them too, and then I can drop that nut that I've got there into this slot here, which will hold it in place, and then I can put these two bolts in. So I'll just put the camera on a stand and then I can show you that in process. Okay, so this bolt here I've already put in as I explained, so that basically slots into that groove there, and what you can do is just to nick it up slightly, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. So all I'm going to do is just gently tighten that so it doesn't go anywhere. Now, what I also need to do is put a bolt in at the bottom here, which slides in on the underneath there, which then just push that through. Sorry, that goes on the outside. That goes down like that and slots into a groove on this plate here. So I can now put a nut on that. Sorry. Like that. I can now put a nut on that, but before I do that, what I just want to do is put a nut through a bolt through this hole here, like that. So this isn't exactly square at the moment, which is why it's a little bit stiff. So as soon as you've got a bolt through there, now this piece also goes on there, and you can see that the greenhouse scissored slightly there. As soon as you've done that, get a nut onto this part here. And as soon as you've done that, the whole greenhouse is then stable. This is in its final resting place, so what you can do is just quickly tighten that up like that. So you just need to bend that down slightly. So now I've got a bolt running through here into the bottom there. So what I'm going to do before I go any further is just very quickly run a nut onto that bolt. Like that. Sorry you can't see this on the camera, but this is going from this piece into this side piece here. And because you've got a bolt, you've got two bolts here, and you've got a bolt through the bottom, and obviously we've got a bolt up here, which I'm going to adjust in a moment. I can very quickly tighten this up, and this is most certainly where you need a spanner. A socket or anything like that won't do here. You need a spanner to get in here. Like that. Just very quickly tighten that up. Right, that should be tight enough for now. Now what I'm going to do before I actually glaze this, I'm going to go around and tighten all the nuts up again. But what you should have is obviously the glass is going to sit on here. It's going to come down and then it's going to rest on this bar here. Then obviously it'll go into the gutter part here. So that needs to be flush with that. That most certainly needs to be right. Now if we go back up to here, this will be slightly high. So if you just undo that, wiggle it about, and then tighten it up again. The first one is always the most difficult. As soon as you got this one in, then the other side, which is behind me now, will go in that much easier. Now, if you look at this plate here, that hole isn't lining up quite so well. So what you need to do is the nut that's at the bottom here, just loosen that off slightly, and then you'll find that the plate will actually rotate round like that. So then you can put a bolt in there. So I'll just put a bolt through there, and I'll get the camera off the stand and I can show you exactly what that looks like from all angles. Okay, so we've now got this piece in, as you can see, going up to there. So what I did then, just to explain so you can see from this angle, what I did was slotted that over this groove. Obviously this nut was already in, so I slotted that over there to hold this part in there, and then push this down into here. Now that's the bolt there, look, which is bolting it onto the side strip. Obviously this nut was out at that point. Now that would make that this would move backwards and forwards. So what I did then was put the nut through there, put the three pieces together. Obviously this bolt here goes through this supporting strut, the plate which holds the corner, and also this part here. So that goes through all three parts and then gets bolted together, so that's nice and firm now. Obviously it's still moving slightly because the bottom here isn't tightened yet. And then all I needed to do then was put that final bolt in there. Now if you remember, the hole didn't line there. That's because that plate was slightly twisted that way. So all I needed to do was undo, just slacken that bolt off there, and then the plate would move round, allowing me to put the bolt in there. If any of the holes don't line up, all you need to do is just release the bolt slightly, move the plate to the right position, get all four bolts in, tighten it up, and then that'll all go into place. So that's that corner done. I've tightened all the nuts up now, so that's all nice and tight. This piece is obviously still loose here, so I can now tighten that up as well. Tighten the top up, and then tighten the bottom, so that's all now stationary. Now the next thing to do is to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So what I'm going to do is go from here in exactly the same way, bolt it onto that plate whilst it's holding onto there, and then the two, just move this hocker out of the way, so then the two corners then should come together at the top. So as that's exactly the same as this one, I'll just do that, then I'll show you as soon as I've got that in place. Okay, so that's that side in. So all I've done in exactly the same way is put the bolts in, bolted that in, obviously at the bottom as well. That one goes in there at the side to bolt the apex part onto the sidebar. And then all I've done then is just tightened up the nuts there. Now I've left the ones at the bottom a little bit loose, because what I need to do now is get the top part to align. Now this can be a little bit different on various greenhouses, but on this one there's a plate that connects the two together before the apex slots in. So all the plate is a small piece of aluminium that looks like that, and then that basically just sits inside the greenhouse like that, bolting the two pieces together. So all I'm going to do very simply is just put a bolt through there and a bolt through there, just to bolt that in place to hold the two parts of the roof together, and then I can put these final two bars in here and here, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so as soon as you've got the top plate in there, what you can do is then put the final two glazing bars, which will come down from the outside hole there and the outside hole there, which is basically the longest side bars that you'll have. Obviously there'll be an angle cut into the top. So all you need to do, in exactly the same way as we did the side walls, get a bolt through the hole like that, and then what you can do then is just slide your glazing bar over the top of that. This is easier done without the camera in your hand, obviously. There you go, so that's slid in at the bottom. Then all you need to do is get your bolt in the groove there, just pull out to the top. Like that, and then just by holding the bolt in there with your thumb, what you can do then is just get it ready to go in that hole there. That's it, push it through the hole, and then all you need to do then is just hold that in place, put your nut on at the top, like that. So that's, just put that tight in at the top like that. Now all you need to do is get your spanner, go down to the bottom first, make sure that's all aligned up there, that's all nice. So what you need to do is just tighten up the nut like that, and then what you can do is just nick that up with your spanner. So I'll tighten that up slightly more in a moment, and then go to the top, tighten that up, and then away you go. Okay, so that's that end completely on now, so that's basically the back gable end. So we've got all of these two bolted in at the top, obviously the bracket in the middle, and then it's all bolted across the bottom. Now obviously this is still sort of a bit wobbly this way, because obviously we need the top piece going in there just to hold it all, you know, all that in place. But that's basically fastened, that's not going to go anywhere. So what we need to do now is in exactly the same way do this front part. So in exactly the same way you need to put a nut and bolt in that hole there, which is where the first piece is going to go. A nut and bolt in that second piece there. Now obviously again you've got a left and a right, so we can do these ones from the outside. So obviously that's this side. So all you need to do is before you put it on, you need a nut and bolt. I only need one, so I've got both there. So the first thing to do is just run that down the strip like that to about somewhere like there, and then looking at that bolt there at the bottom, so just drop that over the top like that. Then that bolt there goes into this hole like that. Then all you need to do is just run the nut on here like that. There you go, and then just tighten up the nut at the bottom, and then that's that piece in. Exactly the same thing we need to do now on the other side, and then we'll be ready to put in the sort of the pieces that go up and down the roof. So obviously that'll just bolt in here again, and then sort of drop it in there. So then and then do obviously the other side, and then the only bit difference here is obviously that piece that's there and that piece that's there is the effectively where the door goes. Now on this side they are slightly different, because you've got like a piece that comes out, I'll show you in a moment, that bolts in there and in there, and then but basically that's the door frame, which is only glazed on one side, so they're a slightly different shape, but the two pieces that go up and down there are identical from the two sides. You know, they're effectively, the parts are interchangeable. So all I need to do now is get the other one of these on this side here, which is this one here, and then I can start to put the roof in on this side as well. So I hope this episode was of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I hope this episode has shown you the first few steps of putting up a greenhouse. The next few episodes will show you the further putting up the framework and putting the glass in and strengthening it and all the rest of it. So that'll be coming up very shortly on Jim's Allotment. So for now, bye bye.